Why is the polar vortex sending not one, not two, but three massive Arctic blasts towards 60 million Americans over the next 2 weeks? And what does this mean for Christmas travel plans? Right now, as I speak to you, an Arctic high-pressure system is sitting over Iowa at an incredible 1,043 millibars, creating the perfect launching pad for dangerous cold air. A winter pattern that was supposed to bring typical December weather is instead unleashing multiple low-pressure systems that could make this Christmas season historic for all the wrong reasons. The first 2 weeks of December have already been brutally cold across the eastern half of the country, and now we're tracking 3 separate storm systems that could dump heavy snow from the Midwest to New England. I'm Michael Thompson, and today is Sunday, December 14th, 2025. In the next 24 minutes, I'll walk you through exactly why this winter pattern has taken such a dangerous turn and what it means for your holiday plans. This isn't just another cold snap. We're looking at a complete breakdown of the polar vortex that's sending multiple rounds of Arctic air southward in ways we rarely see this early in winter. But here's what makes this different from any other winter forecast you'll hear today. At precisely 6 minutes, I'll break down exactly what each region across America can expect from these 3 Arctic blasts, including the shocking wind chill temperatures that emergency officials are preparing for right now. I'm using data that's been updated within the last 5 hours from the National Weather Service and the Weather Prediction Center. This isn't seasonal speculation. These are the exact numbers that school districts are using to plan closures and transportation departments are using to position equipment. Let me start by explaining what's happening right now that has meteorologists genuinely concerned about the next 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks of December have been absolutely brutal for the eastern half of the country, with temperatures running 15 to 25 degrees below normal in many areas. We've seen plentiful snowfall across the Northwest Rockies, the Upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, New England, and just recently across the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic. What makes this particularly concerning is how this cold air is setting up over fresh snowpack. That Arctic high-pressure system I mentioned, sitting at 1,043 millibars over Iowa, is positioned right over the snow we just saw fall this weekend. But here's where this story takes an unexpected turn that has weather experts scrambling to issue warnings. We're not looking at just one more Arctic blast. We're tracking 3 separate low-pressure systems that are going to march across the country over the next 10 days. The first one crosses through Quebec and Ontario Tuesday evening, followed by an even stronger 984 millibar low moving through Minnesota. That second system is going to produce an Arctic front across the central United States Wednesday and Thursday that could be historic. And if that wasn't enough, we have a third system, a 990 millibar low near the international border that's going to swing through next weekend. What does this mean for families trying to plan Christmas activities? What about the millions of Americans who are already dealing with dangerous wind chills and now face the possibility of multiple snowstorms? Don't miss what I'm about to reveal, because these regional breakdowns will determine whether you're dealing with manageable winter weather or potentially life-threatening conditions. The timing couldn't be worse. We're entering the peak holiday travel period just as this polar vortex breakdown is sending Arctic air as far south as Georgia. Nearly 60 million people from the northern plains through the southeast are already under cold weather alerts, and that number is about to grow significantly. But here's the critical regional breakdown you've been waiting for. Exactly what each part of America can expect from these 3 Arctic waves. Let me walk you through this systematically, because each region is going to experience these systems very differently. Upper Midwest deep freeze zone. Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, and the Dakotas, you're in for the most extreme conditions. That Arctic air mass over the fresh snowpack is already creating wind chills approaching minus 50 degrees across parts of southern Canada and the northern plains. Minneapolis and Des Moines are looking at actual air temperatures well below zero, with wind chills that could cause frostbite in under 10 minutes. The second Arctic blast Wednesday and Thursday is going to reinforce this cold, potentially bringing some of the lowest temperatures this early in winter on record. We're talking about wind chills approaching -40 to -50 degrees. Cold enough to be genuinely life-threatening for anyone caught unprepared. Great Lakes Snow Machine. Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio face a complex, multi-threat situation. Chicago Bears fans heading to Soldier Field today need to know they're looking at wind chills of -10 degrees at kickoff, dropping to -15 by the end of the game. But the cold is just the beginning. Lake effect snow is about to become a major factor as these Arctic air masses move over the relatively warm Great Lakes. Areas downwind of Lakes Erie and Ontario are going to see periods of heavy snow that could produce several inches of accumulation through the week. The Clipper systems I mentioned will bring additional snow chances across the entire region, with each system potentially dropping 2 to 5 inches. Ohio Valley and Appalachians. You're caught in the crosshairs of every one of these systems. From Ohio through Kentucky, West Virginia, and into Pennsylvania, you're going to see sub-zero wind chills through Monday morning that could approach -10 degrees. The terrain in this region acts like a natural snow enhancer, so every Clipper system that moves through has the potential to produce significant accumulations. Areas in the higher elevations could see 6 to 10 inches from individual systems, with the potential for storm after storm through Christmas week. Mid-Atlantic Corridor. From Virginia through New Jersey, you're on the southern edge of this Arctic invasion. D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, and New York are going to experience their coldest weather of the season so far, with morning lows dropping into the teens and single digits. Each of these Clipper systems has the potential to bring 3 to 6 inches of snow to the region, creating challenging travel conditions. What makes this particularly significant is that many of these areas haven't seen substantial snow this season, so even moderate amounts could create major disruptions. Northeast Winter Wonderland. New England, you're looking at a classic nor'easter setup. As these systems move offshore, they have the potential to intensify and bring significant snowfall to areas from Connecticut through Maine. Boston could see multiple snow events over the next 2 weeks, with each system potentially bringing 4 to 8 inches of accumulation. The cold air is going to be so entrenched that we're unlikely to see any rain issues. This is going to be all snow for most areas. Southeast Shock Zone. Even areas that rarely deal with winter weather are going to feel this Arctic reach. Atlanta, Nashville, and Charlotte are looking at temperatures dropping into the teens and low 20s. Some of the coldest weather these areas have seen in years. Hard freeze warnings are in effect from Georgia to North Carolina, with temperatures cold enough to damage pipes and outdoor plants. Areas as far south as northern Florida are under freeze warnings, showing just how far south this Arctic air is going to push. Now, there's something developing that I need to tell you about, and it's showing up consistently in all the latest model data. This isn't just about cold temperatures. Each of these Arctic blasts is going to be accompanied by active storm systems that could produce significant snow. The first system Tuesday evening is already showing signs of bringing moderate to heavy snowfall across the Great Lakes and into New England. The second, stronger system Wednesday and Thursday has the potential to create blizzard conditions across parts of the northern plains and upper Midwest. And the third system next weekend could bring another round of heavy snow to many of the same areas that are still digging out from previous storms. Let me explain the science behind why this pattern is so persistent and why it's likely to continue through Christmas. The polar vortex, that massive circulation of cold air that normally stays locked over the North Pole, has undergone what meteorologists call a disruption. When this happens, pieces of that circulation break off and migrate southward, bringing Arctic air with them. What's unusual this year is how early this disruption occurred and how persistent it's been. We normally don't see this type of pattern until January or February. The high-pressure system over the western United States is acting like an atmospheric dam, forcing all the storm energy to the east. This creates a pattern where the western states stay warm and dry, while the eastern half of the country gets hammered with cold and snow. Here's something that might surprise you about what this means for Christmas week in the holiday travel period. Looking at the extended forecast models, this pattern is showing signs of persistence right through the Christmas period. While there may be brief periods of moderation, the overall setup suggests we're going to continue seeing waves of Arctic air and storm systems. This means that Christmas travel could be significantly impacted, especially for anyone traveling through the Midwest, Great Lakes, or Northeast. The snow depth models for Christmas morning show extensive snow cover across the northern United States and southern Canada. For those hoping for a white Christmas, you're going to get your wish across much of the northern tier of states. But for those planning travel, this persistent snow cover is going to make road conditions challenging throughout the holiday period. Let me share some practical guidance for getting through this extended period of winter weather safely. For the immediate cold threat, if you're in any of the areas I mentioned where wind chills are approaching minus 40 degrees, limit outdoor exposure to absolute necessities. Frostbite can occur in less than 10 minutes at these temperatures, and hypothermia becomes a serious risk for anyone without proper protection. Make sure your car is winter ready with a full tank of gas, jumper cables, blankets, water, and non-perishable food in case you get stranded. For home preparation, make sure your heating system is working properly and you have backup heating sources in case of power outages. Protect your plumbing by letting faucets drip during the coldest periods and opening cabinet doors under sinks to allow warm air to circulate. Stock up on essentials now. Food, water, medications, flashlights, batteries, and anything else you might need if you're snowed in for several days. For Christmas travel planning, I strongly recommend building in extra time and flexibility for your travel dates. Consider traveling earlier in the week rather than waiting until the last minute, as storm systems tend to develop quickly in this pattern. Have backup plans for both your departure and arrival cities, and make sure you can stay an extra day or two if travel gets disrupted. Now let me address what this pattern means for January and the rest of the winter season. Looking ahead to the new year, the long-range models are suggesting this active pattern could continue with some interesting variations. We're likely to see a southeastern ridge build across the eastern United States in January, which typically brings milder weather but also quieter conditions. However, that polar vortex disruption in western Canada is going to continue sending shots of cold air into the western United States. This creates an interesting setup where the eastern U.S. could see milder temperatures while the western U.S. experiences more winter weather than usual. But don't think that means the east is safe from snow. We're expecting the subtropical jet stream to become more active. This could bring major winter storms to the middle part of the country, with low-pressure systems developing near Oklahoma and Texas and moving northeast. The Pacific jet is going to remain very active, correlating with the polar jet to import cold air and moisture that could create significant snow events. For the Pacific Northwest, this means January could be a big snowmaker, with the active Pacific moisture combining with the available cold air. The second half of January is when things get really interesting, as that Arctic air in the west starts to make its move eastward again. We could see a dramatic pattern flip where the western U.S. gets the brutal cold, while the eastern U.S. experiences milder conditions. This back-and-forth pattern is exactly what creates major winter storms. The contrast between warm and cold air masses provides the energy storms need. For snow lovers in the central part of the country, this could mean some very active periods with potential blizzard conditions. The northwest side of these low-pressure systems will have the cold air, creating the perfect setup for heavy snow and blizzard conditions. On the southeastern side of these systems, we could see heavy rain, flooding, and even severe weather setups across the south. Let me circle back to the immediate situation and give you the 3 most critical points to remember for the next 2 weeks. First, we're dealing with multiple Arctic blasts, not just one. This is a pattern that's going to persist through Christmas. Prepare for sustained cold weather with multiple snow events rather than just planning for one storm and then recovery. Second, the wind chills we're seeing are genuinely dangerous. Minus 40 to minus 50 degrees in some areas can cause frostbite in under 10 minutes. This isn't just uncomfortable cold. This is life-threatening cold that requires serious preparation and respect. Third, Christmas travel is going to be significantly more challenging than usual due to the persistence of this pattern. Plan for delays, have backup options, and consider adjusting your travel dates to avoid the worst of the storm systems. Looking at the early disruption of the polar vortex has created conditions that we typically don't see until the heart of winter. For those who love winter weather, this is exactly what you've been waiting for. Frequent snow, bitter cold, and classic winter conditions. For those who prefer milder weather, remember that this pattern will eventually change, and we're likely to see some relief by late January. The key is being prepared and staying flexible as these systems move through over the next few weeks. While this pattern is certainly challenging our daily routines and travel plans, it's also delivering the kind of classic winter weather that many areas haven't seen in recent years. I'll be monitoring these Arctic systems closely and providing updates as each wave moves through the pattern. In my next forecast, I'll reveal the specific timing and impacts of the next Arctic blast. Plus, take a closer look at how this December pattern could set up an epic January for winter storm activity. Until then, take this weather seriously and take care of each other. We'll all get through this Arctic challenge together.